Hi,
Hey
Alan.
Jeff, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
Good, good.
Good.
You should be okay to share your screen whenever you're ready to start. I know we're early, but I figured I'd open this up early so you could
Thank
get
you.
set
Yeah, I
up
wanted
and
to make
make sure
sure
everything works.
things were all ready to go here.
Sure.
Um, get my headphones on here. Um, Also, Alan, I was just curious about, I'm using WooClap for the very first time.
hmm
And so is that just, am I going to launch that right from the Moodle? Like I've got it loaded on obviously the Mountain Moot site. How do I get that? Like, how do
Yeah.
I get that going?
Well, you've got it set up on the Mountain Moot site. People can get to it from there. Now you have to go in and you've already set up the activity in WooClap.
Yeah, like it's all, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you run it as the leader on your end, and then everyone else has the link to it to the activity. I think there should be in WooClap as a leader, you should be able to see the share link that you send to everyone so that they can participate.
Okay, let me go in and have
And
a look.
that's what you want to have people go to. And we can put that in the chat as well once we
That
get
was,
started.
yeah, like what I was wondering is, let's just test, how about we test and see what, let me just see here. Because it gives, maybe it doesn't.
I'm going to go to the session right now.
I'm just going to see what happens if I share my screen. I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
still going to play out of the like web page
Mm-hmm.
presentation. That's what I'm on. Okay.
Yeah, I just went to the WooClap, and it looks like it's correct. It's showing it as a presentation at the moment. So
So I thought like when I was showing it on Zoom, like when I come up with a poll, they should be able to click on it even from within Zoom. Is that how it's set up?
the poll in Zoom. Let's see. I can make you a host, and then you would be able to do the polling. I'm not sure. Do you see the polling option at the bottom of the Zoom screen?
Um,
Now I'm talking about polling in Zoom, not
oh, in
polling
Zoom. No,
in
yeah. So
WooClap. Yeah.
I was hoping to do the polling, like the actual WooClap take care of everything. That was my.
Oh, yeah. Then yeah, if you've already got that set up in WooClap, then it should just show up for people when you get to that point.
Right. So you're seeing my screen right now, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if I go, like, I guess what I'm wondering is if I go to my like first poll there,
Mm-hmm.
like, are people able to just click on this on their screen right now and it's gonna work?
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. If that's
And you're
if that's
yeah.
how we're set up, like I was like, this is such a cool tool, but I
if
just wasn't
nothing,
sure on.
if nothing else, we can say raise your hand if you've played this game, or just raise your hand basically, and you can see in the
Can you just try?
uh,
Do you want to just click on like no on this? It
yeah,
doesn't really matter. And let's
yeah,
just,
I can
does
try
that
it.
work?
Let's see. Yeah, let me go to.
Like, or is it this like link up here that they have to be on? Like, do they have to
That's
go
what
to
they have
that?
to go to. Yeah, yeah. Let me
Okay.
go to that and see if that works. Okay, yeah, yeah. If you go to that link, then you get the user view. So that's what people should be seeing. That wooclap.com/motivation. That's where people need to go, and when you go there, you can vote to watch.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
vote yes.
Right. Okay. And then I can.
And then submit, and it shows
Oh,
up. See?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
see.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
you should be able to.
So I just need to tell
I don't know if
people
you
to go to the link then as we're on
Yes.
that each
Yes.
of the slides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. As soon as you start, just say that here's the link. Everybody go to it.
Right.
And what I would do is in fact, I think I might be able to change this in the link in the Moodle course should be changed to that link as well. So if you want, I can go ahead and change that so when people click on it, they go to the right place.
Right. I think I
think that link is taking me to the presentation view.
Right.
To what you have on your end.
This one is. It's for me. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So do you want that visible for the students as well?
I see what you're saying. Well, maybe I just put a link in up above or something like that.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just do
fine
it
too.
up in here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Can you remember what the link was now?
And then that it's wooclap.com/motivation in all caps.
Where's my link here? There it is. Is it wooclap that?
Wooclap.com. Nope. Yeah, it's
wooclap.com. Okay.
Yeah, wooclap.com/motivation, and the motivation is in all caps. I'm not sure if that matters, but probably best to do it that way. There you go. Okay.
Didn't like that.
Yeah, that's the link.
Good.
How is it showing it? Oh, put the HTTPS in front of it.
I think that's what it refers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See if that works.
Okay. So at least that should.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
There we are.
Great.
Okay.
Yep. I think you're good to go. Now you may want to go back and clear out the answers that we tested. If there's a way to do that.
Is there a way to do that?
Yep, I'm sure.
Okay, so I'm learning.
I've only really used wooclap like just recently, and that was on the end user end. But anyway, we're at 10 o'clock. So
yeah, you know what? You're a few calls I don't think are going to really matter. So it's and it's only one of the questions we've asked. So I think we're good.
Okay. Valerie and Delrose, yes, we did share the link. It's in the Moodle course. If you look under the top section, it's at the bottom of the top section of content, and it says wooclap link. Should be able to go to that, and if you don't see that, then it's wooclap.com/motivation in all caps, motivation, and should be able to get to it that way.
Yeah, and Alan, anyone that comes a little bit late there, that obviously is posted on the top of the first slide anywhere. So I'll stall a little bit. I'll wait a little bit on that first one.
I'll post that link in chat too. So
that'd be perfect. Alan, one question about the attendance as well there, because I had that come up from yesterday there. Are you able to help me with that or how can we make sure that
the
people
attendance?
are, yeah.
In what way?
I get is it like for their moot coins that coming for a presentation, that kind of thing? Like, is there a way that we can see who's attending there?
I think it's probably. I think the best way to do it is to look in the Moodle course and
yeah, that's
see
fine.
who's registered there. So
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
Yeah, anytime you're ready.
Well, thanks, Alan. Thanks very much for being the moderator here. And thanks everybody for coming this morning. My name's Jeff. I'm the director of Motrain and Motivated. And today I want to go through our presentation on gamification for the win. And depending on who your end users are, your students, whether they're regular students in the K-12 or higher ed, or whether it's employee or customer training, customer education, that's where we spend a lot of our time currently doing some of our work. So to give you a bit of an idea where I'm coming from, my background is a high school teacher. I was using Moodle for probably about 8 years in a blended environment, and I taught physics and science with it. And my whole purpose of using Moodle was to basically use it as a flipped classroom, where I was expecting my students to do a lot of the theory and practice and assignments on Moodle so we could free up our face-to-face time. And I was just getting frustrated with all the time and energy that I was putting into Moodle, and that was really inhibiting our progress in the face-to-face time. And so I got really interested in online learner motivation and engagement. And so today I'm going to look at some of the gamification options in Moodle with you, and show you some of the things that I've tried and some of the plugins that you can use readily today. And that kind of transitions us into motivational design, which is really where I spend most of my thinking and how we approach teaching in Moodle. And then I'll highlight one of our case studies that we've just been working on a lot in the last 10 months, and then kind of wrap things up. So last little, I would say, asterisk in this presentation is that this is my first time using WooClap. So I think it's such a cool tool. A big shout out to those guys for making such an awesome product, but I'm a newbie at it. So if I do have some mishaps, then bear with me. That being said, the links for the polls and the questions, the interactivity, will be on each of those slides as they come through. So I'm sure many of you can relate to the frustrations of being an e-learner designer, whether you're a teacher or an instructional designer, and you spend a great deal of time creating these learning opportunities that just don't get taken up in the manner that you're expecting or hoping. And I found that incredibly frustrating as a teacher, and it really slowed us down in the rest of our kind of learning path, so to speak. And in this current day, I think the big thing that we need to be aware of is that we're in constant struggle for people's attention and their time. And so as soon as we're going into an online learning environment, the fact that we're going online, people associate that behavior with a whole lot of entertainment, and there's a whole lot of other options that people have when they go online. And this graph, I've been following it through the years. It's actually an interesting one to look up, because you can see how over time these places change. But in the next 60 seconds, for example, almost 700,000 hours collectively will be consumed of Netflix. And if you think about that, when learners come into our environments, their phones are often sitting next to them, which we obviously tell them to put away, but they have all these other devices that have, I would say, these entertainment values right next to it, and we're really I would say, in a battle with their attention. So my goal is collectively, if we're all using Moodle, and there's 200 million people, I think, now using it, is that one of these years we can get Moodle as one of these wedges here on where people are spending their time in 60 seconds. So the whole concept of bringing in some engagement pieces and game-based learning is really by the way, you're going to hear a bunch of words if you go into this whole realm of gamification and game-based learning, and serious games are all terms that you're going to hear. So I thought it'd be useful to kind of differentiate those in the beginning. But game-based learning has been around for actually quite a while. And if you were in school in the 80s, you would have likely come across these two games. And game-based learning is really a game that is created that can help present the curriculum or a learning concept through the narrative of a game. And so these two were really the kind of trailblazers there. The Oregon Trail, where you were to learn about pioneers traveling out west and trying to have your family survive that entire journey. And then there was basically a geography game that was finding Carmen Sandiego. So again, they were very specific in nature. The games themselves were designed to teach a particular topic. So let's try our first poll here. And I could have asked you basically how old you are, but I thought it would be a better question just to ask if you've played either the Oregon Trail or Carmen Sandiego. So to participate in our poll, this is the link that we have to go to. Alan, you can, I think that's the one that you've put in the chat as well. So if you click on that one in the chat, you can participate.
Yeah, I'll put it in chat
there.
again, just in case anyone came in late. I will pop it in again. There it is.
Awesome. So the question again coming in is, have you played the Oregon Trail or Carmen Sandiego? I'll give it another short. You can see the polls are coming in now. All right, let's check and see where we're at here. Yes, we have 73%. Oh, look at that. So I know that just tells me right there that people have basically the same age as me or older there. So that makes me feel a little bit good about if you've seen those games, you know that you've avoided dysentery and you've hunted buffalo, I think, for your family as well. So yeah, those games have been around for a long time. And if you think about it as a teacher, most of us have added game elements into our classes as basically an engagement tool. And so it doesn't have to be an electronic version of it, but games are proven to be a very effective way of teaching. And so in game-based learning, there was basically a transition in the mid 2000s to a term called gamification, which is where we add game elements typically to non-game contexts, like in education. And most people associate gamification with the standard version, which is called PBL, points, badges, and leaderboards. But it can take a variety of different shapes. And one of the things to kind of start off with is there's really two branches of gamification to be aware of. The first is content gamification, and that's where we take the content of the course or the learning material, and we actually change the content to be more game-like. And so you can think of that as you would design your course as like a quest or a challenge. There would be a storyline, some type of narrative that you would be helping the students work through the content, but in the nature of an actual game. And that, if you think about it, it's very labor intensive and very much focused on the particular course or content that you're designing or working with. And so the game becomes very specialized. And so it's a very cool way of doing it, but it does not have a very broad kind of effect, because you're just working on one like maybe it's one topic or one concept, or at best one course. And then there's structural gamification, which is where we do not change the content towards a game. We are changing the mechanics of how the learner progresses through the content by adding those game mechanics. And that's typically what people associate with points, badges, and leaderboards, like the motivated or motivation plugin that a lot of people have now seen with the Moot, is that you can just you can have any course. So all the presentations, including this one, and all of the courses that people go into, there's an opportunity to earn those Moot coins. And it has nothing to do with the actual content. It's the facilitating the learner through that content. So Back in 3 years ago, when we kind of started all of this, when I was doing my research on gamification, I really had to decide, like, what are we going to do here? We're going to go content gamification, or are we going to go structural? And I definitely feel more comfortable in the structural side of things because that's where some of my experience was. But content gamification, if you're interested in it, I would recommend you hire someone who knows how to build games and how to put that together, because it does require a lot of well thought out planning and to make it work. So if you're wondering, okay, well, so we're looking at gamification. Well, what's the value here? Or why would we consider this? And so another competitor LMS to Moodle has kind of dove a bit further into gamification natively in their LMS. And so they do a regular poll every year, and you can go back in time and see some of the results here. But basically, they found from the feedback, the surveys that they're getting from people that are using their LMS, that people do feel more motivated, they do feel more productive, and it helps to fight that the boredom that they typically associate with going and doing their online training. And if you go, again, there's lots of places. I've got a link at the end that'll show you some of these case studies here. But really, back when gamification kind of took off was in about 2010 or 11, I think it was, when Hewlett Packard created a gamification project called Project Everest. And it was really the flagship for why motivation is affected by gamification, because they saw this really massive spike in their resellers team uptaking their training material. And so that kind of spawned the whole movement into adding game elements to the learning context. I found a couple other ones that I thought was interesting on the learning side of things. Ott is a e-learning LMS for travel agents, and so it helps them learn about traveling and or offering their travel advice. And you can see that they had a massive spike in course completion rates. And then Deloitte is another company that is quite heavily invested in gamification, and they've seen a large improvement in the timeliness of their learning. And so one thing to also consider when you're looking at gamification is, what are the metrics that you're trying to improve? And if you think about engagement, it can kind of be a nebulous, like, it's a feeling maybe, but if you're looking at actual analytics or data, like, what is it that you're really trying to get to? And so course completion rates are one that often comes up, and time in the system is another one. And so those are things just to be mindful of what is it that you're trying to achieve. So I'm curious, I'd like to know, where are you at with your experience with gamification? Never tried it, proficient, or are you an expert? Or beginner, that is, proficient or expert? Oh, awesome. I can leave these polls. I didn't know, I had no idea. WooClap is awesome. It's a live feed here. We have here about 27, okay. Perfect, so we're mostly on the never tried and beginner side of things, which is perfect. So the next few slides will definitely help you get interest, or hopefully get a little bit more interested in starting out here. Okay, awesome. So into Moodle here, we have asked Moodle actually to put the plugins that are designated for gamification in a set. And so if you go to the Moodle plugin repository and just type in gamification, you will see the list of the plugins that I'm about to go through all sorted for you. And so it's really easy to find them. The only thing is I've added one, there's one in there that's not listed, and I think it should be, so I'll speak a little bit to that as well. So if you're looking at adding some gamification to your Moodle site there, the first one that I came across was called the game activity. And so what it does is it's a whole, basically it's a plugin that has a whole suite of games that you're likely familiar with. And you can literally just pull them as an activity to put into your course there. And so Hangman, Crossword, Cryptics, Millionaire, Sudoku, Snakes and Ladders, and Hidden Picture, those are all ones that can come up. And basically it just connects to your glossaries, your quizzes, and questions. And as you pull those over, it will automatically build that game for you. So when the students come into that and they click on it, it's just going to pull over those pools of resources that you have to build that. One of my gripes with it is that each of these games here, the Hangman Crossword Cryptics, shows up as a separate activity in your Moodle site. So if you do put that in, just be aware that you're going to get like however many is that, about 7 or 8 activities that show up separately. So it does kind of make your activity list a little bit longer. I found this particularly effective, especially for vocabulary kind of definitions, where it's single words that you can use then with definitions as your kind of your hint or your explainer there. So it's a decent one to start with, just to pull some of your existing resources and add some more game elements to them. The next one is Quiz Venture, and I still remember laughing. I was crying with laughter actually the first time that I installed this one and tried it out. What it does is it pulls your question banks, it pulls your quizzes over into, basically it's like the game Galaga, where you are this flying Moodle ship here, and the answers are attached to these the enemy ships here, and your job is to shoot with, use this, your arrow key is to fly the ship around, and then you use the space bar to destroy hopefully the correct answer. And so you can see the question comes in at the top here, and then the answers are on the spaceship itself. And you score more points if you shoot the correct answer, but then you lose points if you shoot the incorrect answer. And I found this so funny the first time because I was teaching physics, and so sometimes I would have a question come through that required a calculation. So I'm not entirely sure how you would calculate and question a physics question and fly your ship around and shoot the right answer. And the other part is sometimes your answers are not one word. Like this is a nice screen grab with the answers of a multiple choice question that are displaying just a single word, but often they're long sentences. And so you have these enemy ships with these really long sentences. But it does work in certain, I would say, certain question banks, and the kids kind of enjoyed it for a short while.
Hey, Jeff, real quick,
yeah.
We do have a couple of questions. Valerie wanted to know what she's specifically related to the question bank plugin. When I initially created one of these activities, I was unable to pull from existing question banks and had to create a completely separate bank. She's asking, how do I have it pull from an existing question bank?
That's a great question. I've never had that problem, so I really cannot help. Mine always just came across without me having to do anything else. So that's really strange. I'm not sure.
And also, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's Valerie. I'm the one that posted the question because we were playing around with gamification and we really wanted to bring in the hangman and the crossword and some things like that for exactly what you said, the definitions and terminology type stuff. And it didn't do it automatically. And when I went to, where do I want to pull my questions from, for whatever reason, my existing question banks just didn't show up. I had to create like a whole new question bank for that particular activity. And that's still the way we have it right now because we kind of went on to doing some other things. And I was just, when you said that, I was like, wait, what? That does that?
Yeah, it's supposed to. I never had any problem with it. So I'm not sure if it's maybe how your question banks are organized. I'm not whether it's been a little while since I've actually looked at it. That's one thing. They could have changed it since I've played around with it. So sorry, Valerie, I do not have a good answer for you. Mine
okay.
just worked. Mine came across, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I can make it cross."
That's okay. I'm going to go back and try again now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
And also, Lindsay wanted to know: are there any accessibility statements, notes for these plugins that you know of?
Another great question. I actually do not have a good answer for that either. So that the plugins themselves will have their own dedicated page on the Moodle site there. So that would be my recommendation, to go and have a look and see what they say there. See what they say.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was it so far.
Yeah.
So carry on.
Great. The treasure hunt plugin is a plugin, by the way, that you're not going to find on that gamification set. And I have spent a number of hours trying to get this thing to work, and I have had limited success. And I've not gone back to visit it, so I'm hoping that the updates have happened and that's easier to work with. But this plugin, I think, has a whole lot of potential. It's basically literally a treasure hunt builder that you can then use outside, literally physically outside, or you can set a treasure hunt up inside if you're, say, having a tour of a museum or something like that, or your own building. And what it is it's basically a plugin where you can create the treasure hunt in a series of roads, they call them, and you set up, you can use the GPS locator on the phones, where you can start to tag basically a perimeter or a map or a route. And when the learner arrives at that location on the map, they can get posted a series of questions. And so it could be used for like a campus tour, for example, and it feeds directly back into your Moodle site. So I always think of this one as like, what a cool way of, for example, onboarding students to a new school or a university where they could tour campus, for example, or answer some questions. And then it would also introduce the Moodle site as well, as if that's your platform. The indoor one is a really cool one too, where you can use, it goes away from the GPS, but it uses a series of QR codes where you can scan the QR code and it brings up a series of questions or a couple questions that you can then again have them answer right on the spot. So you're taking learning outside of your classroom. I had some trouble getting this one working. Maybe there's some people that have had some success with it. I was really intrigued on what they were doing with it. But I also found at that point that I think it was made by some folks in Spain at a university. And so some of the support documents were just difficult to work through in terms of the translation was going from Spanish to English. So it could be my issue there, but I would really recommend you check out that plugin. I think it's got a lot of potential. H5P, of course, is another one that's obviously the rage these days, and it's a great tool. I have not used all of these different games that they have identified, and I've used some of them though. Flashcards, Valerie, if you're looking at doing the vocabulary stuff there, I really recommend this one because it gives you the visual, it gives you an image, and it gives you the definition, and then you can have the term, for example, on the other side, and it looks really nice. It's a great tool. In the H5P set there. So there's more in here. Some of them I'm not entirely sure that I would call them gamification structures, but definitely worth having a look in your H5P library. Moving on, Stash is another plugin that's I think it's underutilized, and it's one that I think has some interesting potential for people that like to discover. And so Stash, the name of it, implies that you build a little snippet of code and you can embed that in your course kind of wherever you like. And when the learner comes to that particular part in your course, that's when they will find, for example, like an Easter egg effect there. So you could put in this case, this is just the screen grab there, a coin, a golden crown, or a golden sword. So it's kind of encouraging students to go through your courses in a discovery mode. And the other cool part about this one is that you can use those particular items as criteria that need to be met in order to unlock or release new content. So it could be like you need the golden crown and the golden sword to be able to access this next activity. So they're doing some neat stuff with that, and really kind of catering to the player type of a discoverer. Level Up is probably the most popular plugin, and this is really the one that got me interested in gamification because this was the one that I was using with my students. And basically, it's a plugin that allows students to earn experience points based on their progress through your course. And when they reach, you can set some different levels, which is just the number of experience points that they need to reach. And then this pop-up comes up that says, you've reached the next level. They also have a leaderboard as well in that, which then can show you how you are ranked compared to the rest of the people in your class. The thing about Level Up is it works on a course-specific structure, whereas just as a comparison, like Motivation, we use it's site-wide, so it's kind of it pulls from all courses. So Level Up, if you're interested in using it for your course, it works really nicely because you are then just having students in your course that are say working relative to each other or just on that level up side of progressing. And you can set those values. This was the one that really got me thinking about the mechanics of gamification, because I still remember the day I was running a quiz with my students. It was just a formative assessment. And so this kid puts up his hand and he said, hey, how come I leveled up? I just failed this quiz, but I just went up. And I was like, well, that doesn't really make any sense to me either. And so that's what got me really interested in the mechanics behind gamification and what they're doing in Moodle to hopefully appeal to the student and help them progress. And what is it the mechanics are doing that are showing a meaningful measurement of learning? By the way, sorry, I should probably back up here. The developer of Level Up, and he actually helped develop Stash as well, is Fred Massart. And so he is my main developer now, and he and I have been working for a couple of years now on developing the whole motivation side. So Fred's an awesome dev, and he's got great ideas of gamification as well, and he helps us really shape some of the things that we can do in Moodle to make things better. Badges, I heard yesterday there was a session on creating badges, which I'm very interested to hear more about. But if you want to use badges on your Moodle site, there is a option to do so. You can install the badge plugin there, and you can set up criteria for the badges to be awarded based on what the student is doing on your site. So you can then customize how those come across. I tried working with badges for a little while. I just found, I'm sure it's better now, I had trouble finding badges that I thought were visually representative of the categories or the badge kind of topics or items names that I would want to use. So I went online and I saw, this is my competition for Andy Braden, who was apparently showing people how to make badges yesterday. Well, I was making badges a number of years ago by hacking the label functionality in Moodle. And so what I would do is I would go in and I would make a label and I would put in an image and a horrible dad joke because my kind of gamification was to see how many eye rolls I could get from my students when they got this. But I tagged that label into the conditional release. And so when a student say, this one in particular I took from my old Moodle site, which was if they passed their quiz on plate tectonics, they would get this "You Mag My Day" label that would pop up. And so I would use the restrict access feature. And so they would only get this when they achieved 50% or more. And so that was kind of my badge hacking in terms of having the badge presented right within the Moodle course there. That was kind of before. I think they've come up with a badge block now, so it displays a little bit nicer. But if you've got lots of dad jokes, I recommend the label functionality there. So next poll question. I know there's some, most of you have never used gamification or you're beginners with it. So I'm curious just on kind of what I've presented, what's your level of interest in the ones that I've presented so far? If you have used them before, you could use this rating system to show like how much you really like those particular ones to help the people that have never used them. So I'd love to hear, so you rank, this one's a rating scale we're trying in QuizVenture, or sorry, in WooClap that is, to see from 0 to 5 what people feel. Interesting. We've got who's the winner here? We've got H5P is still looking like it's coming out top. The badges are pretty popular. Awesome. I think this is what I was feeling. I would agree with these. I feel like the game and the QuizVenture have some limited appeal there. I think the treasure hunt plugin, if you can get that working, would be really interesting. H5P, definitely check that one out. There's lots of things that are easily available. Level Up and badges and Stash. Okay, awesome. Thanks very much for participating. So as I mentioned, Level Up was the plugin that I started with and really kind of dove into in the mechanics of it. And one of the things that I found over time was it kind of lost its effect that I was hoping to have with it. And so I'm fortunate to live in Vancouver. And so there's a really big game industry, a video game industry here. And so I started to go into the studios and interview them and start to look at like, hey, I think we could do a lot better with student engagement if we add some better actual game mechanics into a learning environments. And so they obviously had no idea about Moodle or LMSs or anything like that. And so it took quite a while to get our heads around like what we could do with it. But through those conversations and my own observations with my students, the problems that I was finding with these tools that I had tried was that students were suffering from reward fatigue and indifference. And that was really where students just got tired of earning the same thing over time or just didn't care about it. And if you think about a lot of these gamification tools, is that the student receives these the feedback and the rewards in a really systematic manner. There's no autonomy. They have no control over their kind of involvement in the game other than just participating in the LMS. And so that kind of lack of choice and lack of ability to control or manipulate the situation on their behalf was something that I found was really limiting. And so our whole framework came from that kind of notion, is like, if we want to improve on the effects of the gamification, those are the solution. I want to have solutions to those particular problems. And so I know a number of you have mentioned badges as something I saw on the last slide that you're either using or find effective. And there's kind of like different categories of badges that I look at. I look at motivational badges, like if you're just giving someone a gold star for doing something, in the research that I've read, it has a limited effect on people's motivation. A better use of badges are using them to show certain like merits or certification. And so if they have like a true value of some standard that the student has met, that's a better way of using badges. But if you're using them just as a motivational tool, it doesn't seem to have a great effect on learner behavior. Leaderboards is another interesting one. I know Level Up has it, motivation, we've put it in. It was one of the last features that we've put in. The research shows that leaderboards, you have to be really careful with them, and you have to really consider your learner persona to see if it's an effective tool or not. There is research and evidence done that leaderboards can actually be harmful to the learning environment, so you need to really be careful on who you use those with. That's why with our leaderboards, you can turn them on or off completely, and you can also make them anonymous. And so it would show the student's relative position if you don't want to have them know who they're competing with. But I always say really be careful with leaderboards, and it works like in the Mountain Moot. Some people are really crazy and totally into their position on the leaderboard, which is awesome if you're wanting to drive that engagement in a conference, for example. But it might not be the best use case in your class. And then the last thing that I really was interested in is this concept of what's in it for me or what's in it for my organization, and how we can really make a personal connection with our learners. And so I've been kind of trending away from the term gamification, and I prefer the idea of motivational design. And what the difference really is that we're going to use the gamification tools, but we're also going to leverage the instructional design or the framework that the LMS provides us. And so the way to think about that, I think sums up in this picture that I took of my kids riding these bikes, exercise bikes in my gym. And you can see these bikes have been fitted with a screen. And on the screen is really just the ability to become an avatar on a bike. And as you pedal the actual bike, the avatar on the screen will start to ride. And you can then race other virtual avatars. You can race, you can record your time and save it for later and race your same virtual bike rider the next time. You can race the person on the bike next to you. So it adds this massive motivational appealing element that is typically absent from an exercise bike. And so when I took this picture, I was like, wow, this is really what I think of in terms of gamification in the LMS, is that we want to have these tools that are sitting on top of the LMS, and the LMS, the exercise bike, being something that we should be going on to on a regular basis. And these tools up here will just help nudge people into those environments on a more frequent basis. And so the word gamification is often associated with engagement and motivation. And I struggled with that. I still do, because you hear a lot of titles and a lot of people who use those words of increasing engagement and motivation. But I always found it being problematic in terms of what is it that we can actually measure in terms of, say, qualitatively having some feeling associated with it. So I started to look at what are the behaviors that lead to learning, and what are the mechanisms that we could use to shape those. And so, for example, course enrollments is the very start. If you cannot get people to come into your learning environment, then obviously they're not going to learn. So is there a way that we can help improve that? And obviously in education systems, you just, sometimes you're just putting your students in your courses, and that's how they get enrolled. But there are many learning environments where there's a choice for learners to come in. And so is there a way that we can attract people to our learner programs? Then there's, of course, timeliness and frequency. The more often students go into your learning environment, the faster they go in, are obviously things that are related to improvement in their learning. Course completion rates, there's not a lot of data that's published, and I'm fearful of why that's the case, but course completion rates in online learning has typically been low. Evidenced by MOOCs, they have about a less than 4%, or sorry, 5% completion rate. So that's another huge issue for online learning. Mastery is a personal one for me. I was really, really frustrated with students who did, like, I called them the 50.0 and go students. So they would just get 50%, make sure that, yeah, I've done what you've asked me to do, and never come back to try to improve on their learning. Even my top students, I found was a huge struggle. How do you get people to come back and really become fluent and become masters in that particular content? And then lastly, the personal connection for students. As an online learning environment, I think that's a huge struggle to get people to really have a personalized experience there. And so what tools can we add in to help with that? So I'm curious, out of those behaviors that lead to learning, which ones are most important to you? Oh, but sorry, I think here, this is a different, oh, I know what I did here. This is a different one in WooClap here. So I think you have 100 points to spend. That's what it is. It's, I don't even remember the name of it. So you can now allocate, this is a different, yeah, you can allocate your different amount of your 100 points to the different categories. Awesome, very cool. I had no idea that Mastery was going to be out in the lead like this. Awesome, well, I've got a few good slides on that coming up here. That's perfect. So, great. Alan, I hope we're recording this there, because that is some information I think is really interesting for people's for
yes,
people
we
to
are
come back to.
absolutely
Yeah,
recording.
okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
we're recording this Zoom session, so it'll be, you'll be able to see it in the Zoom session, which I just got word this morning from Ryan that they're going to be converted into YouTube videos and posted. So you'll be able to scrub right to this point and be able to get that data. So.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. That's, yeah, I definitely would like to come back and revisit this. The Mastery, that surprises me that one is actually the top by far, actually. So thank you for that. So on to what we came up with on our side of development on the Motivation plugin there. And the great thing is now that many of you have had a chance to look at it from the student's perspective, is that really the drive towards avoiding the reward fatigue and indifference was to come up with a platform where we had a lot of choice baked into it. So we introduced a virtual currency. And if you think about what that is, it's really a feedback tool. And if you think about, as you have been working through the Mountain Moot conference, and as you have been working through any of the learning opportunities, is that you've been earning coins based on the completion criteria that Ryan has set up on the Moodle site. And as a learner, if you think about the feedback that we typically give learners, is that's usually kind of, it's playing the long game. And as a student, most young students anyway, have troubles connecting these short-term achievements with long-term goals. And so having those coins coming across in a very quick manner, showing the learner that they're making some progress there, was something that was important in our feedback strategy. But as you can already see, those coins accumulate in your wallet, which then can be spent in the store that's being offered by the Moodle site that's hosting it. That's all run and managed, by the way, on a dashboard that you're not seeing as the student. And the other part we've added is multi-tenancy. And so on a particular Moodle site, we can use cohorts to separate out our students, and each of the cohorts are presented their own unique store. So you could have, say, a school on a Moodle site, and we could separate our stores based on grades. If it's a company, we can separate our stores based on different divisions within the organization or different geographic locations. And then lastly, we do have an open API, and so it's getting pretty fun these days. We're getting some clients that are using, I have one client that's using blockchain in some mechanism to feed coins into the learner's wallet. So they're using Moodle and some other software that they're piping in coins for the reasons that they want to use. So this is the last of the gamification plugins, the ones that I've been working on for the last few years. As a teacher, sorry, I was coming at this from the school's perspective. And so the very first kind of thing we developed was this avatar builder, which as the coins come across, like you've been seeing in the Mountain Moot, they would accumulate in your avatar builder, which is a mobile app that's connected to the Moodle site, and students can spend coins on updating parts to their avatar. And then we have the ability to push that avatar to the profile picture in Moodle. So that was the way that we were looking at personalizing the experience for the student. The other part in that is we have student generated content. So I always wanted to add an education element to this. So students can actually, at your school, can build and learn to create digital avatar parts and upload it to our dashboard so that students in the school, other students in the school, can purchase those parts. So it was really like a kind of a digital learning experience too for a select group of students in the school. But then it would be only found in their school for their classmates to purchase. And then that was kind of going on. And then I was walking by my students or my kids' school, and I saw this principal's parking spot. I'm like, hey, it'd be really cool if you could purchase that principal's parking spot as a high school student for a week. And so that kind of like spawned the whole like idea of this store and being able to put items in it. And so as a teacher, I was thinking, yeah, you could maybe put things in from the cafeteria, or you could have like a test rewrite option, or an assignment omission, that kind of thing. So you could put in items into a store that were really specific to your class or your students. So that was what really started the store. But what you're seeing is you're not seeing the avatars on the Mountain Moot there. You're just seeing the store side of things. And really, we had the corporate world come to us and say, hey, we really like this idea of the store. Can we use it in customer training and employee training? And so the mechanics that we use for gamification here are a few to drive, again, the reward fatigue and reward indifference is we present a unique store to our group of learners. So hopefully we know our learners, and we can show them things that will be appealing to them or helpful to them. And then we have the ability to list items with a time frame on it. So there's always an expiry date that you can post. So that's aiding with the timeliness and frequency of learning. And we have the ability to, as you can see, we have auctions and raffle draws. So we wanted to add games of random chance because games with uncertainty have a really large appeal to most people. And so when you also have the ability to influence those by, say, purchasing more entries to the raffle draw or bidding in the auction, you are actually now you're manipulating or controlling that environment, but it still has uncertainty. And so those were some of the game elements that we wanted to add into our plugin. So from the designs perspective, we want the LMS to be the place where students can go and earn coins or earn currency. And that's up to the teacher or the instructional designer to add as many opportunities as you can to facilitate learning and provide that economy. But then we want to also, right next to it, have as many coins draining from that system, and that's where the store comes in, and that's also where the personal connections are made to the learner are enhanced. And so that feedback loop is really our motivational design structure for what we're doing. And I'm glad to see that a lot of people are interested in mastery, because that was one of my big things coming up when we used this system with the restricted access with the restricted access feature in Moodle. And so let's say you have a quiz that everybody's required to do. If they complete it, we can allow some coins to come across. Let's say they don't complete it, the grade to pass is not high enough. We would hopefully have a support loop, as I call it, to help them get back up to where they need to be. But if they do complete and earn those coins, we can then, with the restrict access feature, show a mastery activity, which then is displayed for the learner as another opportunity for them to go and earn some coins based on some different criteria. It doesn't have to be the same activity. It could be something completely different. So this restrict access feature, I'm really curious how you use it. Do you use it to just kind of drip feed content? Do you use it to create learning paths? Do you use it to enforce your due dates? And then it is used in some other gamification scenarios as well. And if you haven't used it, definitely a tool. If you're listing those activities, when you create an activity, there is a restrict access feature that is listed in Moodle, and it's a really handy tool that you can release a new activity based on grade or date, things like that. There's different criteria that you can release it with. So awesome. So there's definitely some people that find this as a useful tool as well. And it definitely can be used as a gamification structure, and that's how we're currently using it as well. I'm just mindful of time, so I'm just going to be hopping on here. The way that we do this with our motivation plugin is that we can control the number of coins that are offered for each completion. And so right here, if we have a safety quiz that we can then set up on our dashboard to say reward with 25 coins, on your Moodle site for the student, this is what it would look like is, okay, I've got the safety quiz. If they complete it, the restrict access feature then, this is the teacher view. It shows if the student will see this mastery loop, as I call it, appear. So if they complete that safety quiz, then the mastery loop activity will automatically appear. And then we can say, hey, you can do this mastery quiz. Maybe it's a series of more challenging questions. It's not required, but it'd be great if you did it, and you can then earn an additional 50 coins. And so that whole push towards going above and beyond what's minimally required is how we leverage, again, with the motivational design, how we do it with our gamification mechanics, as well as the restrict access feature in Moodle. One of our latest features that we developed is grade-based rules. We literally just came up with this, developed it for a client a week or 2 weeks ago. And so we also have the ability to assign coins based on a range of grades that a learner lands in. So for example, if they write a quiz and they achieve somewhere between 80 and 100%, then we would award them 10 coins. If they get in between 60 and 79, we'd earn 6 coins, and so on. So you could add as many ranges as you like. But the idea of the mechanics, though, is if they write say a 65 their first time, we give them 6 coins. If they are to rewrite that quiz and score, say, an 85, then we would just top them up to 4 more coins. So we're giving the learner the ability to increase the number of coins they earn up to the maximum in the top range there. So you can have a learner who progresses through these ranges to hopefully continually strive towards that mastery. And so we can set those as on a global setting for the site-wide, but we can also get very specific, and we can do that for any grade item on the Moodle site. We can do that very specifically. So the last I want to just finish off with is our case study. What we've been working with Watts Water, which is a global water technology company, and they have been using our platform for their customer education portal. They had previously tried to educate customers, but had a lot of problems with engagement. And so they came up with this learn and earn program, and they've branded their own, you can see that their own tokens, they put their logo on it. And their target audience is engineers, contractors, plumbers, wholesalers, distributors, all these people that are non-employees, that they would like them to learn about their products and services, but there's no consequence for these people to avoid their learning environment. So they can't fire them, they can't, they actually don't have a constant dialogue with them. So this program was really meant to attract people in to, again, you're competing for their time. So you need these people to come in and learn about your products and services so that you're better able to sell them or recommend them or know how they work, install them, that kind of thing on the job site. And so they have brought their whole marketing team in and have put branded items in there that will help people on the job site as well. For example, job sites are not finished often. So having a chair to sit on to have your lunch is something that's pretty nice to have if you're working on a plumbing install, for example. So they have put all of these branded items into their store. And then we've actually connected their stores to shipping providers, and we're actually now sending these items out through the mail. And so we've gotten very granular in the sense that, excuse me, that we've attached cohorts in their site to different fulfillment providers. And so they have a North American cohort that's connected to a shipping provider. Excuse me, one second here. And then they have an Italian cohort that's connected to an Italian shipping provider. And so these items are getting sent out in the mail as we speak. And so that's really the kind of, I would say, the massive extent of what we can do with our store listings. And my favorite slide on the deck is really this one, is what happens when you do bring this program into their learning environment is comparing. Just this week actually was our 10-month anniversary, and we can compare it to their previous program, where previously they had 374 customers sign up, and collectively they completed 2,000 courses. And then in September of 2019, they started with our MoTrain platform, and you can see the difference there. As of Monday this week, they have over 6,000 customers who have signed up, who have registered for their courses, and collectively have completed over 72,000 course completions. So they are over the moon about how the success of this program, and we are now expanding this program, I think, in 12 countries in the next 18 months there, just connecting different cohorts to different fulfillment providers based on geography. So if you're looking at kind of doing it really small scale, you can do things in your own classroom. I think you put in items in the store that are relevant to your learners that are either no cost or low cost, or if you have a massive budget and you want to expand this out, you can also do that with our tool. So I know I'm probably really close to time there, Alan. I wanted to stop and give a few minutes to any questions that people have. But just to wrap things up here, if you are new to gamification, my recommendation is just to really start, try some of the plugins that are available in Moodle. Really, if you are keen to drive that learner engagement, there's no silver bullet, I would say, in the beginning. Like, try different tools and see which ones work. I've got a link at the bottom there that is a really good, it's got, I think, 90 case studies of gamification there that shows you some of the data. But other than that, the last bit is we do have our solution offered with a number of Moodle partners as well. And I know eCreators and eThink are both at the Moot here, so they're very familiar with us, and we've worked with them as well. So if you do have your Moodle sites hosted with them, they can definitely help you as well.
Thanks so much, Jeff. This has been fantastic. I think everybody will agree, especially judging by the lively conversation in the chat. It's been really great. I do see a question from Deborah. Can you please share the link in the chat? It's hard to grab from the slide. Which link is?
Oh, I think it's this one here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there.
I know. If you just UK Chow and then you type in UK Chow in Google, and then I think it's ROI, like return on investment, you will see there's a web page that'll come up right away on 90 case studies of gamification.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I don't have that link handy. I don't think right off the slide. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. somebody grabbed it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the it's in the chat, everyone.
Awesome.
And Rick was asking, how hard is the integration with Moodle? Have you done any with Totara?
Yeah, we are.
Rick, was that a question for Jeff, I think, or were you asking someone else? Okay, yes.
Yes,
Question for Jeff.
we are actually an approved extension for Totara, and so that is yeah. If you go on the Totara extensions, if you just Google Totara extensions, there's about 10 approved extensions for Totara, and we are the engagement gamification extension for Totara. Yeah, so we work natively in that as well.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. Like I said, this has been great. This has been a great, a lot of content to look through. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again myself. So it's.
Yeah, there's so much more there, and so I know that it just depends on people's level of comfort and where they're at. But I do know that I've had a few busy vendor table conversations as well. So I just want to put this out there. I will make that kind of open after this as well. If people want to come in, if they go into the Motivation course, I'll go into that as soon as we finish here. And if you want to come in and chat about that or ask any questions, I'd be more than happy to spend some time there as well.
Great. And again, this Zoom session has been recorded. So once we get the recording up online on the Moodle course, you'll be able to go back and watch it again. So, yep.
Great. Thanks so much, Alan. I appreciate your help managing and I'll take a look at this chat here as well for a little bit. Sorry, I haven't been able to respond as I've been presenting, but I'd love to hear from people.
Not a problem.
Great. Great. Thanks again, everyone, for coming.
I'll go ahead and end it, and have a great day. I'll see you all around.
Thanks
so much. It was awesome.